Clown in a Cornfield,
Yes.
throwback splatter horror comedy, which at some point in it, someone says, it's like being in one of those 90s horror movies in the corn. And someone else says, what does that mean? And she says, it means I'm next. So the poster says from the director of Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, which is Eli Craig, and from the producer of Smile. So that's how they're pitching it. So that's the general area. Written by the director and Carter Blanchard, apparently based on a novel, 2020 novel by, now I don't know whether it's Cesare or Cesare or Caesar, Cesare, but the author of the novel said that they wanted to do not so much a throwback slasher as an attempt at a very modern slasher, and a modern slasher with modern themes. It's a throwback slasher. So opens in 1991, very Jaws-y sequence, in kids around the fire, drinking, carousing, young man, young woman. They look at each other alluringly. They're a bit drunk. They run off into the corn, and then they are predated because the film's called Clown in a Cornfield, and so you can fill in the gaps. Fast forward.
Does the clown entertain them with a series of tricks and custard pies?
There is a funny gag about having a very, very big footprint, and then clown death ensues. So then Quinn, Katie Douglas, and her recently widowed father, she's lost her mother obviously, moved to Kettle Springs, which is in the middle of nowhere. She hates the place. She hates the fact that her dad has brought her there. She goes to school and she falls in with a group of school kids who spend their time making pranky videos about Frendo the clown. Frendo the clown, who was the symbol of Bay Pen corn syrup. This is the sort of the thriving industry of the town, and whom they are now playing up as a gag. But as we know from the opening, there is real clowny death in the cornfield, and it's only a matter of time before spoofy videos meet real life splatter. So the film revolves around kids making pranky horror shorts. So that's pretty much the tone of the piece. It's very much in the same ballpark as something like Happy Death Day, although I have to say it's not as good as Happy Death Day, which I really did enjoy. Clowns and the word is coulrophobia, isn't it?
Coulrophobia
is fear of clowns. Standard horror fare. Frendo isn't on a par with, for example, either of the iterations of It, which I know that we'll get to later on in the show, in which we talk about people's favourite clowns. But there are a couple of good gags. The gag about it being like in a 90s horror movie. There are a couple of nicely revisionist surprises. So there are a couple of things that happen in the film that wouldn't have happened in this kind of film many years ago, and that's kind of quite nice. There's a running gag about the age gap between the insufferable teenagers and the insufferably conservative and up themselves adults. Kevin Durant's Arthur Hill. There's quite a lot of splatter in it, but it's entirely good-natured, entirely unthreatening, heavy on the awful, low on the viciousness. I went to the BBFC rating and it says strong, bloody violence, gore, horror language, frequent violence and jump scares are delivered with a darkly comedic edge. 15. Again, we were talking before about it. It's amazing. 15-year-olds today don't know they're born, because this is the kind of thing which had this turned up on video in 1984, the DPP would have been all over it. There was one thing that was interesting about it when we came out of it, and I quite enjoyed it. It's not great. It's very unmemorable. It's the kind of thing I remember once going to the Scala to see an all-nighter of slasher movies, some of them sort of retro slasher movies. I think it was 7 films back to back, and one of them...
Wow.
Yeah, but that's what the all-nighters were like, and one of them was a birthday thing. It wasn't Happy Birthday to Me, but it was similar to that. And this is the kind of thing which if this played as the 3rd film in that series, you probably would have stayed awake. But if it had played as the 5th, 6th film, you might well have slept through it. But it came out and had a very heated discussion with 2 other critics about the fate of one significant character. And we couldn't tell whether we couldn't agree on the fate of him, because either the film's storytelling wasn't very good, or they'd had to do a reshoot in which that actor wasn't available, so they got another actor to wear the clown head, or it's specifically ambiguous because there's going to be another one coming down the pipe. So what was interesting was there was 3 of us, and 3 of us had 3 different versions of what had happened, and we couldn't tell whether it was a teaser or just a bit of bad filmmaking. But it's look, the film is called Clown in a Cornfield. You know the film that conjures up?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. It is exactly that film. It's kind of goofy. Yeah, it's kind of goofy, but it's not scary. But because it's not really meant to be scary, it's meant to be sort of retro throwback. Whilst it was on, I enjoyed it enough, although it's a bit of a mess. By the time we get to next week, I'll remember nothing about it.